Hey guys, welcome back to this week's Pull here on Comic Relief Cast. I'm your host, Jake.
And I'm Josh. Hey, Jake.
What's up, man?
I don't have a question.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. That one that we went off air and we had to delete was so bad. We're just going to skip right over that one. All right, guys. And on today's episode, obviously, you clicked on the Marvel segment for the week. And the things we're going to be going over is Typhoid Fever, Spider-Man, number 1. What If XMen, number 1. Death of the Inhumans, number 4. Cosmic Ghost Rider, number 4. The Superior Octopus, number 1. Tony Stark, Iron Man, number 4. X-Men Black, Magneto, number 1. And What If Spider-Man, number 1.
And don't forget Shatterstar, number 1.
And Shatterstar.
The long-anticipated Shatterstar.
The one everyone's waiting to hear. That's why they clicked on this video.
Of course it is.
Yeah, we would not waste the space
Like,
in our
oh,
title
man,
for Shatterstar.
Yeah, totally.
There's going to be that one Shatterstar person, like this fan that's like, fuck this, thumbs down this video.
Like, Shatterstar is great and gives us the whole history of Shatterstar.
Here's everything he does. Oh, and by the way, we also had the first appearance of Shatterstar.
There's a reason why he was only on screen for like less than 5 minutes in Deadpool 2.
All right, anyways, let's move on to Typhoid Fever Spider-Man by, I think it's Clay Chapman and Stefano Landini. Stefano, how'd you feel about it, Josh?
You know, when we were doing our initial order forms, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to suck.
Yeah, we thought this would be something like the Wakanda Forever that just didn't sell.
Yeah, it just sits on the shelf. You know, it's just like a fun little title for someone to pick up maybe on a light week. But, you know, surprisingly, this book was, it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I was surprised. I actually really liked this. This was one of those things that we usually think Donny Cates would do something like this. It's Donny Cates in the sense that he kind of juggles what's happening in reality versus what's happening in somebody's kind of fever dream or you know, skewed sense of reality. And in this one, Typhoid Mary, her whole reality, we as the readers aren't even sure what exactly is happening. The way Spider-Man gets dragged into this, you're really kind of on your toes the entire time, but in a way that I really liked.
Yeah, it all works really well. And the one thing that's really nice is I understand that Typhoid Mary is in the new Iron Fist season.
Yes.
Season 2.
I actually still haven't seen it.
I haven't either. And I don't really plan on it.
I'll see it at some point, but I'm very excited for Daredevil season 3. So.
I was told Iron Fist is actually really good compared to its first season, which that's not saying a whole lot. Right. But this was a great...
This shit smells less.
Yeah. This is a great little book for someone who seen the show and goes, you know, I would like to know a little bit more about Typhoid Mary.
Right.
And this is a good book. It kind of runs a little bit on her backstory, and it kind of tells you where she's at and where she's been. And Spider-Man's always a fun little read usually. And
he's a good person. He's a good person to put in this book because if you were to just put out a Typhoid Mary title comic book, nobody would pick it up. So throwing Spider-Man in there, it's part of a gimmick, it's part of a shtick, but it works in this, and I actually think it works really well with this. And I gotta say too, the art is done really well. It fits this type of narrative. It fits the type of narrative where reality is hyper reality. Things aren't what they seem, and you're having trouble keeping. It's got some like an abstract look to it, which the entire book is a bit abstract. So for that, I'm going to unveil my rating for this book and unveil the rating for this episode, which is I'm going to give this one 3.25 Vespas.
2.5?
3.25. 3.25 because it surprised me. I didn't expect to like this book. I read it first thinking I'm just going to get this POS out of the way, but I actually ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would.
I'm right there with you. I'm a little bit lower. I'm at 3 out of 5 Vespas.
That's solid.
But yeah, it's still, I mean, it's a solid read.
It is.
Yeah. So, next one is What If the XMen, right?
Yes, sir. And this one is by Hill and Milonogiannis, Edwards and Rosenberg. Anyway, so this one it's kind of like what happens if the X-Men meets Ready Player One.
And the Matrix.
And the Matrix.
Yeah,
I'm going to say more akin to Ready Player One because you voluntarily go into the quote-unquote cyberspace, which is what it's called in this book, instead of not knowing that you're living in it.
Yeah, but the way the characters, the mutants, are panned out as if like mutants are Neos.
Yeah,
that's the reason why they have these powers. They have these powers in the cyberspace.
A mutant in cyberspace can manipulate the reality that they're operating in, the cyberspace. And it's also called X-Men, but it's EXE. I forget what it stands for in like computer technology terms, but it's EXE is usually some kind of file you can save it as, and I can never remember I don't remember what it means. But anyway, this book is not, to me, it's not really a what if. This is just like a weird offshoot, Elseworld kind of Cable story and Domino, and like in like maybe a distant future. To me, this doesn't feel like a traditional what if. This isn't like it takes what we know about the X-Men and completely turns it on its head and changes things up. It's just like it's just an Elseworld story. It could have been anything, so it didn't really feel like a what if. But all in all, this book did not grab me very much.
Yeah, it was a rough read. I mean, there's aspects to it that I was like, okay, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. The art, for the most part, is really not that great. The best part about it is when you get Domino in the cyberspace and the art style changes, the artists change.
Yeah.
But yeah, story-wise, it just wasn't very intriguing to me at all.
No.
I mean, when you're trying to do something like this and you're trying to copy like something like Ready Player One, or you're trying to copy something like The Matrix, those are tough things to kind of like go above and to the same level of.
Right, and it tries to be high concept, right? And it's one of those books that if you don't read the kind of opening prologue at the very beginning of the book, then you're kind of lost exactly as far as context. And to me, you shouldn't have to read that first page. Your knowledge should be predicated upon having read that first page to understand this issue. The issue should be self-explanatory, all on its own, and it doesn't stand that way. You have to kind of read the beginning of it. And I didn't really like that, but the art, I'm not a big fan of, like you said, but I will say that the ending of this book, I actually thought was an interesting ending. Like I thought, you know what, if this is what you're going to do with it, this is where you're going to take Charles and Magneto and these characters, this is actually an ending I'm okay with. And if they did something like that in the real world, or in the real world, the X-Men world, I would not be opposed to it either.
Yeah, I mean the ending was pretty cool, and like I said, and like that's part of the whole thing of. There's some things about this that's actually really good. Like, not really good, but some stuff about it that's good.
The concepts are there.
The concepts are there. It's just, it wasn't, it wasn't well-rounded. And with that, it makes it a little bit harder of a read.
Yeah. So for me, I'm giving this one just straight down the middle, 2.5 Vespas. It's not my favorite read, but it's also, if you're collecting the what ifs, you're an X-Men fan, it's not something that you would hate to have in your collection, but it's also not going to be your favorite thing that you pick up either.
I'm at 2.25.
All right, that might be more of an appropriate one, to be honest. But all right, moving on to Death of Inhumans #4 by Donny Cates and Ariel Olivetti. And this series is just getting better and better, if you ask me.
Well, that's because Beta Ray Bill was in it.
I am admittedly a Beta Ray Bill fan. Can't lie. I do love me some Beta Ray.
You love that horse.
I do. I love that horse face. A lot more than Sarah Jessica Parker. But anyway, so
reference that like a lot of our regulars probably wouldn't pick up on.
Yeah, probably not.
Too young. They don't even know who she is anymore.
I hope someone comments below and says, "Fuck you."
Fuck you, Sarah Jessica Parker.
I love Sex in the City.
I'm totally a Samantha.
But anyway, so this book it's progressively getting better. Each one, the intrigue is rising, bringing in characters like Beta Ray Bill to kind of give everything a bit more of a cosmic feel to it, and the intrigue of who is Vox, what's happening to Black Bolt. What you do get in this book is some good action, some good little one-liners from Beta Ray Bill, some good backstory onto why Beta Ray Bill is even being brought into this in the first place. But then you also get a reveal somewhat of who Vox is. And when you get that reveal, it is very unsatisfying. For me, it was very unsatisfying to go, oh, come on, I saw this coming a mile away. I thought for sure this is not the route they were going to go. But then you get another twist at the very end of the book that makes you go, oh, shit, okay, so they're not going the route I thought they were going with Vox, and it's not the predictable route. What is happening? And the idea, once you think about it, once you finish reading the book and you think about what exactly they're doing, it's pretty fucking disgusting, if you ask me. Like, it's demented, and I love it.
Yeah, this storyline has been great, and it kind of makes me a little bummed because a lot of our regulars don't seem to haven't picked up on it, or haven't really seemed that intrigued by this series.
That's because it's the Inhumans. No one cares about the Inhumans.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Inhumans.
Yeah.
This book, though, it definitely had me intrigued because, man, Black Bolt has just been a badass throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
And in this issue, I mean, it just keeps, like what you said, it keeps getting better and better. And the reveal at the end, I'm satisfied with it. I like it. It was a good reveal, and it makes me, but it's also like leaves a lot, like it answers your question,
but then it gives you more questions.
Yeah. And so it kind of keeps you on your toes. And this is probably one of my favorite Inhuman storylines.
Absolutely, and I will say we got to give it up to also the artist. I love the way Olivetti is drawing Beta Ray Bill in this. Like at the very end of the last book, you're like, okay, he's put on some fucking weight. You know, he's like out of practice, and then you see the way that change has occurred, and it carries over in each page. Like you're like, okay, it's still kind of fat, you know, barrel-chested, but you know, six-pack gut kind of weightlifter guy.
Like he's just been sitting there drinking like 6-pack of beer every
and the
night.
way and the way you see him drawn from, you know, now to when you got the the flashbacks in the beginning, you could tell there's a very much of a difference in not just like the face, but in the stature, everything. And I'm like, that is really good attention to detail. One thing though I did realize reading this is Donny Cates. He based a lot of the series, I think, on just one line in this book. And it is when Vox says to Black Bolt, "You're all talk," and I'm like, that is one clever little line to say to somebody like Black Bolt, whose sonic, you know, voice just you know, decimates planets and mountains. I'm like, that is a great one. So when he said it, I'm like, this is where he got his idea for Vox and this whole, you know, for the clash between Vox and Black Bolt was the whole idea, "You're all talk." I'm like, that's one clever line, and I really dug it. It really stuck out to me. So I'm giving this one 3.75 Vespas.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. 3.75 Vespas.
All right, we are moving on to Cosmic Ghost Rider, number 4 by Donny Cates and Dylan Burnett. Josh, I'll let you take this one away because you've been the bigger fan.
Okay, so Cosmic Ghost Rider, the whole premise is Frank Castle is now wanting to raise Thanos, hoping that he could rewrite history. And it's kind of, everybody's kind of trying to stop him, and you find out in the last issue, spoilers, that you see the Thanos that he has raised, and he has become essentially the Punisher.
Yeah.
And you see what kind of world that him raising Thanos ends up becoming. And this book has just been a killer run, and the story is really good. It's a very intriguing idea and notion, like when you start thinking about it, because like that's one thing you never take an account for, is that Thanos and the Punisher there's a lot of similarities.
Their ideologies are not that different, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And guys, I also want to say too that be on the lookout this month, all of October. You're going to be getting these battle line variants, and the Ghost Rider one for this book is really awesome. You guys can see it on the screen.
It's one of the best ones.
It is.
Yeah.
Also, there's a few other ones that are out this week, but be on the lookout for these battle line variants. They're not incentive cover variants, so you can grab them. They're going to be cover priced, and they would look really good in a collection. So I want to definitely point that out. But for this book, what I realized is that, yes, Punisher and Thanos have very similar ideologies, but one thing that Donny Cates does is he paints this idea that good and evil they are not clear cut. And you know, it's like if you want good, you're gonna have to do bad, and you're gonna have to do bad to achieve that good. And we find that out that's kind of what the Punisher version of Thanos had to do to achieve you know, Frank Castle's idea of peace. And when he sits there and he turns out and like thinks about what have you done, it brings in this question of morality. And I just really, really like that, because it goes, hey, if these people didn't want to join this and they just wanted to be segregated to this, you know, they're like, hey, I don't want to stop lying, cheating, stealing, killing, whatever, you know, and they got relegated to one city, and what happens to that city? I just go, that is a very interesting premise, and I got to give it to Donny Cates, because it really kind of paints it for you pretty well for you to see that, you know, good and evil, these ideas, they don't work. They'll never work. They're too nebulous of an idea. So this is my favorite issue of Cosmic Ghost Rider so far. It brought up some hard-hitting points, if you ask me.
Yeah, it definitely, well, like what she said about Donny Cates earlier, it definitely dips into the psyche a little bit more, and the ideology of...
I felt bad for Frank.
Oh, yeah, you do. Like, you realize that there is no white and black. It's all of it's gray. Like there's just some might sway a little more to the other side, but in the end, you gotta do a little evil. You gotta do. I was about to say
this book might be the epitome of the old adage, necessary evil.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say this one so far out of all of these. No, I got to put this one about on par with Death of the Inhumans number 4. I'm going to go 3.75 Vespas on this one. But it is my favorite of the series so far.
Yeah, it's my favorite of the series so far. I'm right there with you. 3.75 Vespas.
All right, moving on to The Superior Octopus number 1 by Christos Gage and Mike Hawthorne. Now this is all basically they're doing it again. Let's take some superheroes. Let's put them in California. Put them on the West Coast. So now you've got Otto Octavius as
in the Peter Parker clone
in the
body
Peter Parker
as Superior Octopus.
Yeah, he's operating out of San Francisco now, and it's him dealing with the last vestiges of his ties to Hydra, the ramifications of him when he was still Peter Parker and started up Parker Industries.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'm really liking. They're bringing back things from back when he was, Parker Industries, when he was, with Hydra from Secret Empire. So they're still taking all this baggage. Whether you agree with that stuff or not, it's good to see character growth. It's good to see, okay, at least they're staying consistent with that. And what's also good, too, is that it stays consistent with other titles. It mentions the West Coast Avengers and how he views the West Coast Avengers as a bunch of children who don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And California or the West needs a real hero. And I dug this book. It wasn't my favorite by any means, but I really did dig this book, and it's nice to see some humanity out of Otto Octavius. Underneath all the bravado and him saying "let us make haste" and all this other shit, there's something very human about him. But he's also still using his science to do cool stuff. And one of my favorite lines in this is I think it says Otto Octavius has defeated death or conquered death. And when you find out how he did it, you go, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it shows the ties to into the Spider-Verse and the Spider-Geddon that's coming up. I am a sucker for Superior Otto Octavius. I love the Superior Spider-Man, and then I get so excited about the Superior Octopus. I love the costume design. What you were talking about with the humanity, I do like that. Even though he is Otto Octavius in Peter Parker's body, he still has these little things that are very, he still has situations a lot like Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He runs into an X, and he's like, oh God, oh no, I ran into an X, I don't know how to react to this. And it was actually a really fun story. My only problem with it is I'm not a huge fan of Hawthorne's art.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite. I feel like if you had a different artist on it, it would have been a little bit better.
Because his suit design is so awesome. You want to see that. We had that poster here a year and a half ago with Alex Ross did it, and you're like, man, that's a good looking suit. But yeah, you're right. Hawthorne's art doesn't do a whole lot of justice, but he does have good movement in this. When the action's going on, it looks pretty awesome.
And the way he he puts out the pages with these weird kind of panels, and a lot of artists tries to do this, and it can look cluster if you're looking at it at first glance, but the way he lays out the pages is very nice, and it does kind of flow nicely.
It does. I don't get confused reading his page layouts.
No, but when you look at it, you'd go, man, this is going to be confusing, but really it's not. You understand, you look at it and you instantly understand that this is going to be one of those pages where
you read
it moves over to the next page instead of going.
I never had to question which panel do I read next.
Exactly.
And the only gripe I really have about this book is the very kind of towards the very end. There's this whole bait and switch thing. I'm like, you never hinted at this. You never alluded to it. I'm gonna call a cop out on you for this one, but whatever, I can deal with it. It leads to the scientific thing that he talks about towards the end.
Well, anyway. That too, but also if you read there's a little end piece at the end of this. It's kind of like a little prologue to the Spider-Geddon. It kind of also is a big deal for the Spider-Geddon issue.
Yeah, so all in all, guys, I'd say this is a pretty good book. I had fun. This is something I would recommend picking up. Also, it's got what I think is a fantastic battle lines variant, as you can see up there on the screen. Yeah. It's got that classic Otto Octavius. I love that cover. I don't think Josh is as big a fan, but I like it.
I like it. It's just it's not my favorite of the battle lines.
That's completely understandable. But anyways, guys, I would completely recommend this one. I'm going to give this one 3.5 Vespas.
Damn it, I hate when we start getting all on the same page. I'm on the same page. 3.5 Voom Voom Vespas.
And what's weird is I actually thought that you and I were going to be arguing a lot on this one because the way you were kind of talking before we recorded.
And it's nothing really excited me and blew my hair back. There was nothing that came out from Marvel this week that just really made me oh my god, and just so excited that I'm pissing my pants.
Yeah, and with that, Josh, what was our 20% off discount code phrase?
His weakness is hammers.
At last, we have found his weakness, hammers.
Yeah. Thank you for saying it right.
You're welcome.
Because I was not expecting that he was going to throw me that one.
All right, guys. If you guys want to come in or message the shop, you can get 20% off any issue that is not on your pull list. Moving on to Tony Stark, Iron Man #4. Josh, what was? Oh well, we should also say this is by Dan Slott and Valerio Schiti. Schiti. And this is still, continuing the last 3 issues. I'm loving this series, man. It's really disheartening for me to see people taking this one off their pull list. I think this is a great little book. I mean, it's only 4 issues in right now. It's monthly, so it's easy to forget what happened in the issue before. But I'm absolutely loving this series, man. It's a nice, fresh take on Iron Man. It's something that I don't feel like we've had in quite a while. Unfortunately, you had Bendis on Iron Man, which I was really excited about, but then Tony Stark isn't really the Iron Man in that book. But this one, it's all about Tony. It's all about his new company. It's all about the people that surround him. I mean, the supporting cast, as you know, Dan Slott did this in Spider-Man. The supporting cast becomes very integral to the story. It becomes a big part of the story that he's telling. But I absolutely adored this issue.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's really great about Dan Slott on Iron Man is that he does make that Tony is not the main. I mean, he is the main character, but he is not the main interest. Like, it's the whole team, the people that he has around him that it makes this book better.
But he even uses those people to tell you more about Tony Stark. You learn more about the character of Tony Stark through those people.
Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of stuff is being taught to him through these other people. The one thing that I really loved, and one thing I was really hoping that they would do, is I want to see more Tony tech. I want to see some more. I want to see some more Stark stuff. I want to see more different. I want to see different Iron Man suits.
Dude, think about this.
Like, that's the cool thing.
Every issue, we've gotten a new Iron Man suit.
Yeah, exactly. So every issue, you get a new kind of Iron Man suit, and every single time, it's like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Whoever thought, like Dan Slott, if he thought of that, or if it was the artist, whoever it was, is a beautiful idea. That's
something that Dan Slott, I think, is really good at. He's really good at taking technology and progressing it in the books. Like the stuff that we know, he takes it to these different different lengths, these different heights that aren't physically possible in our world. But it's like, that is conceivable. I can see that happening. But one thing I really liked about this book, too, is that there's a romance in this book between Tony and Janet Van Dyne, actually. And it's not one I thought I was going to agree with at first, but the way it plays out, the way they interact in this book, I love it. I think it's so charming.
Before y'all freak out, Hank Pym is not really Hank Pym anymore. So it's okay. It's totally okay. I'm pretty sure that Hank Pym / Ultron is okay with his bro.
Right, and with Jocasta, her AI is actually based on Janet Van Dyne. So there's also, you're kind of setting up a weird love triangle here in this book that I'm liking. But Rhodey's in this book. You've got this McCabe girl who's running security. There's a lot of stuff that's in this book that I think there's a lot to like.
You got the guy he just hired for his company,
Bang.
Totally making moves on his
birth mom,
biological mother, not his adopted parents, his biological mother.
Fuck you.
The cover on this, I mean, this has a good variant cover. There's a Cosmic Ghost Rider variant cover that's beautiful. There's a variant cover. Who does I
don't know who did this one, but this is one that I picked up. I don't know who did this one.
That one's still beautiful, and then the original cover is also I love the original cover. I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
But this book, it's a fun book. I like it. And this issue, for me particularly, it deals with a dating app.
Yeah.
And in a romance and stuff. It felt like a filler issue. I feel like we haven't really touched a whole lot onto the Controller.
Yeah.
Who is the main villain.
But I kind of want to see that.
Yeah, they're hinting at it, but I kind of want to see, it's like come on, just give me a little bit more. I want to see where this thing is going. I want to see where this is going, like where it's heading. And
I can agree with that.
Yeah, but other than that, it was a very fun issue.
Yeah, and so I'm liking this a lot. I'm actually really interested to see what happens with Janet and Tony and the way this is all going to unfold, because we know that McCabe is also kind of she doesn't know, but she's kind of a sleeper agent for the Controller and everything too within Stark Industries. So with that one, I'm giving it 3.75 Vespas, and this is actually where we got our rating, was the Vespa, because Tony's new suit
is
and
you'll know.
Pretty interesting. So, all right, moving on.
Wait a minute, I didn't give mine.
Oh, my bad.
You afraid to hear my score?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, I'm giving it 3.25 Vespas.
All right,
a little lower.
I bet it would have been 3.5 if I would have skipped over you.
It probably would have been 3.5, you asshole.
All right, moving on to X-Men Black #1 Magneto by Chris Claremont. This was awesome. Plus, there's in the back of every X-Men Black issue, there's going to be an ongoing story with Apocalypse by Thompson and Nadler. But this one is Chris Claremont himself coming back to do an X-Men title, which I don't know when the last time he did X-Men was, or even, you know, like Wolverine, but this book, I loved this book. This was one of my favorite reads.
It was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. The story for it is kind of a story that we've already... It's a safe story, in my opinion. It's a safe story because it's a story that the foundation of the X-Men and Magneto is built on, and it's the same kind of story we've already kind of heard before. But having Claremont being the one telling it, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, don't have somebody who... Don't just have like you don't want to hear it from Slott. Regardless, no. I love Dan Slott, but you don't want to hear Slott or Bendis preaching this kind of stuff.
No.
Get the guy who's well known for it.
Right.
And it's great. The artwork is it's good. It's not my favorite.
No.
But that J. Scott Campbell regular cover is beautiful.
Yeah, I love the J. Scott Campbell cover, and I also really like the mugshot cover too. As you guys can see,
the mugshot one's good too.
Both covers are really good. This is something that I think a lot of X fans are waiting for. This. I know you haven't been reading X-Men lately, but a lot of the X-Men titles are just filler. It's just beat 'em up. There's not a lot of stuff happening. There's nothing real world happening in these books. You know, X-Men Black Magneto takes a step back, and especially in the political climate that we're in today, it is absolutely relevant to what's going on. It's a little on the nose at times, I'll give it that. I mean, anybody like who claims Marvel's SJW is going to be up in arms over this book probably. But to me, I thought this was a really strong read.
That's the one. I don't mean to interrupt you. But
no, you're good.
No, that was one thing I did when I was reading this. I was sitting here going like, okay, so this is another one of these kind of stories talking about, you know, mutants and how they're abominational and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is great, you know, back in the 60s when this, you know, idea first happened. And then you start reading it and then you go, damn, you know, when you sit here and you think that we've changed a lot as a country, as humanity, we really haven't.
No,
we're still in the same place that we've been.
This book, to me, it reverberates the idea those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And that's what this book is basically saying. Like, hey, Magneto's in the Holocaust. Remember when you put all those people in internment camps and children and all this stuff? Now look what's going on here in the U.S., and look what you're doing with mutants. Yes, there are times where it's very on the nose, especially when you meet a couple rednecks in a bar. Very on the nose there. But overall, this is the kind of stuff that I think most people are wanting from X-Men, because it's taking X-Men back to its roots, back to a very liberal idea, liberal position on how to deal with people who are different from you. And for that, I have to applaud Claremont, because he is one of those writers that can do it. Whereas Tony Stark Iron Man, I'll give it to you, it's kind of a fluffy, fun read. It's not hard hitting, it's not deep, it's not Captain America or like Immortal Hulk happening right now. It's a very different type of good read. This is something that's going to hit you, and it's going to make you kind of feel ashamed of some things that are going on in the world right now. But it's a good book. I think this is a must pick up for anybody this week. This is one of the must pickups. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 4.25 Vespas.
I'm actually at 3.75. I would go a little bit higher, mostly just for the one thing that we didn't really touch on, is that Apocalypse little part in the end.
It's good.
I love that Apocalypse story. The artwork in it's fantastic, and it seems like a very intriguing Apocalypse story. And I'm looking forward to reading more on that. I might even pick up the Mystique book just for that.
Yeah, I think if you had been reading a lot of the X-Men titles that are out right now, and you're like, okay, and then you read this, you go, this is kind of more what I want from X-Men.
Yeah, there's a reason why I don't read X-Men anymore.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, because like if it's anything like Astonishing, because that's the only one I probably have read recently, the recent storylines. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, by comparison, X-Men Black, that's what I want. All right, and moving on to our second to last issue is what if Flash Thompson became Spider-Man? And they brought in a heavy hitter, Jerry Conway, to do this book. And I don't know who the artist is. Not my favorite art, but one thing I do want to say is that I really, really like the way Flash Thompson's Spider-Man outfit looks. I really like that design.
Yeah.
But this was one of the first things that I read, unfortunately, because I wish I could remember a little bit better. But we had a lot to read. But this book, it's Nick Fury as the quote-unquote Watcher, looking over what would have happened if Flash Thompson had been bitten by the radioactive spider that bit Peter Parker. And this is not a feel-good story. This is not one of the stories you read and you're like, wow, that was awesome, that was so good. It's one of those reads where you're just like, damn. Flash Thompson would be a very different Spider-Man than Peter Parker, and you find out why. It's why does the nerdy, reserved, quiet kid make a better Spider-Man than the hero, jock, everybody likes me in high school kind of kid. And you see that the paths that they would have taken are very different with very different outcomes.
Yeah, it definitely shows you that. You kind of get an idea because you already know that in the comic books, Flash Thompson finally becomes a decent human being because of Spider-Man. Because of how much he likes Spider-Man.
But he had to be humbled as a veteran and a soldier and stuff too, you know?
Yeah, and so, like, you understand that it's going to be very different just with that alone. If he doesn't have Spider-Man to look up to and he is Spider-Man, what's going to happen? You know, and this is, Jerry Conway is one of my favorite comic book writers. One of my favorite ones. He's done a lot of things that are really kind of game changers to a lot of characters that we have known. And this is just another great Conway story.
One thing I wish we could have done was we could have gotten a better variant cover, because the action figure variant, it's cool and all, but I would have liked a Battle Lines variant or something for this where you got to really see that that suit of Flash Thompson's on display a little bit better. But no, this was my favorite read from Marvel this week. I absolutely love this. I love that Nick Fury is getting a little bit more love. The original Nick Fury, you know, we've seen him in Exiles. I've seen him pop up a little bit more here and there over Marvel.
I want to see more of Nick Fury Watcher.
I do too, and I actually would like the idea of how does the new Nick Fury deal with the fact that his father's like stranded on the moon with this responsibility. Like that would be kind of an interesting story. Anyway. Great book, Flash Thompson. What I do like is that he does become a hero by the end of it, but in a very different way.
Oh yeah,
and
you see what he has to change is a lot different than the way Peter's ever had to change.
Yeah, and what you see happen to Peter in this book. I mean, it's a great read. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give this one 4.5 Vespas. This was my favorite read.
Damn it, I'm right there with you. 4.5. It was my favorite read from Marvel this week.
All right, and I think you had one more you wanted to touch on.
Shatterstar. It's written by Seeley and art's done by Villa, and
What would you?
Shatterstar #1.
So what?
The long anticipated. Everybody wants a Shatterstar #1.
So what would you? So don't pick it up, is what you're saying.
No, you can pick it up if you want.
He told me behind the scenes, don't pick this book up.
It's about. I give it like a 1.75.
Okay, guys, that is all we've got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and be on the shut up, Jesus Christ. Be on the lookout for the DC one that should be up on the channel. Hit that like button, share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. We're growing real fast, and we love all the support we've been getting. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Shatterstar.
Take care.